What's up, guys, and thanks for tuning back into Token Metrics. I'm Forrest, Senior Cryptocurrency Investment Analyst at Token Metrics, and in this video, I want to go over some realistic price scenario models for Elrond, or EGLD, that we could see manifest this market cycle. So first, let's just ground ourselves and take a look at the price chart. This is Elrond against the US dollar, and take a look at the trend line that it's on. It's on a linear trend line, and we're on a logarithmic view or a logarithmic scale. And that just means that each tick up on our y-axis of dollars is greater in magnitude than the previous tick up. What that means is that a linear trend line on this logarithmic scale equates to exponential growth for Elrond here. Now, keep in mind, exponential growth is extremely difficult to maintain, but also keep in mind that the total cryptocurrency space as a whole right now is and has been experiencing exponential growth for quite a while now. Now, if we were just to say that Elrond maintains or assume that Elrond is able to maintain this exponential growth on this trend line until July or so, that would equate to a price, an Elrond price of $800. Now let's expand that out and say, well, maybe this bull market cycle where we're experiencing all this exponential growth in the crypto space as a whole can last until September or so. Well, if Elrond could continue to maintain this trajectory until September, that would equate, and it were on this trend line, that would equate to a price of Elrond of $3,000 by September. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Elrond's going to be worth $3,000 per token by September. What I am saying is that's where it would be if it were able to maintain this trajectory. Now, it's incredibly difficult for that to happen. But let's break this down a little bit further and take a look at Elrond's market share or market dominance. This is essentially Elrond's market share against the total cryptocurrency market cap, which is currently around $2.2 trillion as of the timing of this video. So out of the $2.2 trillion in the total cryptocurrency space right now, Elrond makes up about 0.17% of that. And it had recently peaked at about 0.27%. Just over this 0.25% scenario. Now, what we can do is we can create several different scenarios for where we think Elrond's market dominance could go to this market cycle, and then we can cross-reference that with our total cryptocurrency market cap scenarios that we'll get to in just a moment. And we can create a matrix for where we think Elrond can go to realistically this market cycle. All right, so now, this bottom scenario here of 0.125% market cap represents if we see a lot of sideways action, and we actually have been seeing a bit of sideways action after this big run up and overvaluation against this trend line of Elrond. If we were to continue to go sideways and maybe even die down a little bit, that would bring us to our more bearish scenario. Our kind of mid-range or realistic scenario, slightly under the trend line, would be 0.25% dominance, which is completely realistic when you take into account that Elrond's already reached this market cycle. So that would be Elrond re-challenging its all-time high in market share. Next, we have the scenario where perhaps Elrond continues this trajectory where it continues to outperform the rest of the market at an exponential rate of growth, and we go to a 0.5% market dominance. I do think this is possible given the track record that Elrond has been on and the trajectory that it's been on. This isn't too out of the question. Lastly, we have a more bullish scenario where we are at about a 1% market dominance for Elrond. Now, we can kind of gut check ourselves and say, is this 1% market dominance even realistic for Elrond? And I would argue that it is, because we've already peaked. Elrond has already peaked at a 270% overvaluation against its current trajectory, its current trend line. And by July or so, actually late June, if Elrond were to be at a 1% market dominance, a 1% market dominance, it would only be overvalued against its trend line by about 170%, and we've already seen a 270% overvaluation. Now, it wouldn't have to be overvalued against this trend line at all. It would have a 0% over. It'd be right on the trend line by sometime in late September, if it were to be at a 1% market share by late September. All that assuming that it can maintain this exponential growth, which is, as I've mentioned, very difficult to do, but not impossible. So now we've got our total cryptocurrency market cap scenarios, and again, we're on a logarithmic scale, and we're looking at all of the money in the cryptocurrency space right now. It has been growing exponentially, the space as a whole, since before 2014, where we had a 1,600% overvaluation against the trend line. Then a 2,600% overvaluation against this linear trend line on a logarithmic scale, so exponential trend line. That was back in 2017 and 2018 when Bitcoin peaked at $19,700. And more recently, we have departed from the trend line once again, and we are experiencing fast exponential growth for the last 6 or 7 months or so without even a red candle coming in, without a red monthly candle at all. And this would put us between $5 and $10 trillion by late July and moving into Q3. So we also have our $3 trillion bearish scenario. And keep in mind, we're already at about $2.2 trillion. We have our $3 trillion more conservative scenario, just in case we start to chop sideways and struggle to get much higher up. But I do think the more realistic scenarios are between $5 and $10 trillion. Now, this 1,400% just represents that if we were able to reach a $10 trillion total cryptocurrency market cap by sometime in July or August, we would be at a 1,400% overvaluation against this trend line, which makes sense and is somewhat realistic when you take into account the overvaluations we've seen in the past. Now, we would expect this market cycle's overvaluation to be less than the ones in the past because we expect decreasing volatility over time with each market cycle for cryptocurrency and for Bitcoin. All right, so we can cross-reference these scenarios and create a scenario model. So on the left here, we've got our EGLD or our Elrond market dominance scenarios of 0.125% all the way up to 1%. And we have our total cryptocurrency market cap scenarios from $3 trillion to $10 trillion. And if we multiply these out and then divide by the total number of EGLD tokens in existence, we can create a price prediction. So our most bearish price prediction would be $214. And that would mean that we move from about $2.2 trillion where we're at now to a $3 trillion total cryptocurrency market cap. And Elrond would actually be suffering, in this case, a little bit of shedding of some market share or market dominance. That would lead us to about a $214 Elrond, which is actually where we're at right now at around $212. Right? So our most bullish scenario, which, to be quite honest, I don't think is likely, but I do think it is somewhat possible as an outer best case scenario parameter, would be that we see a total cryptocurrency market cap of $10 trillion this market cycle, so 5 times where we're at right now. And then Elrond is able to maintain its trajectory that it's on and get to a 1% market dominance. This would result in a $5,700 or so Elrond price, which is quite bullish, but I really don't think it's that unplausible. I think if everything were to go right for Elrond, this could happen, although I do not think it's likely, for the record. If you had to ask me in particular, if you had to ask me what my prediction would be, my most realistic pick would be one of these scenarios here, where we see a $5 trillion or a $10 trillion market cap, and then we say that Elrond's market dominance continues to increase, but maybe it breaks its exponential trend line and moves sideways for a little bit and ends up at a 0.25 or 0.5% market dominance. That would be, in both cases, a $1,428 Elrond, which is quite a bit higher than it is now. It's almost a 7x of where it's at now. So here we have the exact same data, just in chart form as opposed to table form. Now, these numbers can be a little bit difficult to read, so I've also included a logarithmic scaled view where we have these linear trend lines on a logarithmic scale. And we can see our $3 trillion scenario in red, our $5 trillion in yellow, and our $10 trillion scenario for total cryptocurrency market cap in green here, and our corresponding market share or market dominance scenarios for Elrond. So in conclusion, if you had to ask me personally, and feel free to reference this table and use this table based on your own feelings and sentiments and fundamental analysis of EGLD or Elrond. But if you had to ask me, I would say a more conservative bearish scenario for Elrond would be $714 for its peak this market cycle. Realistically, I do think we could get an additional 7x out of or just under a 7x out of Elrond, given its trajectory that it's currently on. Now, obviously, nothing's guaranteed, right? It could break this trajectory, but we don't have any reason to believe yet that it will. So I'd say $1,428, contingent upon it maintaining its current trajectory, its current exponential trajectory, I think is possible. With a bullish scenario of just under $3,000. Now, I want to leave a disclaimer and not financial advice here, but all of these price predictions are contingent upon it maintaining its exponential growth in both market share as well as in price. Now, if you were to see EGLD or Elrond break this trend line, break below this trend line in either price or market share, my picks, my price predictions go out the window. As soon as it breaks that trend line and starts chopping sideways, these are not necessarily valid anymore. So make sure that you watch this particular trend line to make sure that it's maintaining the validity of its trajectory, right? If it breaks this trend line, then this analysis needs to be updated. So I hope this video was helpful, if not informational. Thanks for watching. Bye.